What is going on, Giants fans? Back at it with our Week 9 episode of Big Blue Avenue. If you're new, make sure to go check us out on all those social media handles on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We really appreciate your support. My name is Cam Skattebo. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. Week 9, 2-6. Quickly here, I promised we'd have a very special guest on tonight, and we will. I'm going to bring him up in about 2 minutes. Before we do that, just want to quickly recap the key takeaways from the week. Obviously, Cam Skattebo placed on season-ending IR yesterday. Brutal stuff. Lighter news, too. Quarterback Jackson Dart was named NFL Offensive Rookie of the Month for the month of October. Awesome to see. And our New York Giants Player of the Week. This is an award we give out every week. And this week, we went a little different. I went with Gunnar Olszewski. And now I know what you might be thinking, like, why the hell would you pick him, Tom? Well, I picked him because field position was key in this game against the Eagles. And early on in this game, he did an awesome job. He had 3 kick returns for 94 yards in this game, had a long of 33, and he's averaging over 31 yards per kick return this season. And if you look at the year 2025 for him, he ranks in the middle of the pack in the league in kick return average. He's 22 yards shy of his career high in kick return yards, averaging 28.3 per kick. In punt return yards, he is 9th in the NFL. So I just want to throw that out there. And obviously, before we bring up George, thoughts and prayers go out to Cam Skattebo. Shout out to Big Dom. It was brutal stuff, and we have to move on. We have to move on to Week 9, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there as Jackson Dart has to continue on without Cam Skattebo. And our guest here tonight to talk about it with us from upstate New York, originally from the Heights in New York City, George Bristol, live from his Big Blue Wrecking Room. George, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. How are you, Tom?
Doing excellent.
I like the little Heights reference. That was nice.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know what that means nowadays in 2025. I feel like the younger generation.
No, probably not, unless they're living there. But
absolutely. Can you tell us, before we get into, you and all of the Giants stuff that's been going on this season and, the preview of the 49ers game, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you became a Giants fan? And obviously, I mentioned the Big Blue Wrecking Room. Take us through that a little bit. What inspired you to create that, and how's it going in that room?
So how I became a Giants fan, like most people except for you, it was the team my dad loved. So I would grow. I mean, I vividly remember Giants games from probably around 1989 or so. Just remember my dad yelling at the TV, going to see what's going on, watching the game with him, kind of bonded with him over the football team. Obviously, they were very good, which helps draw people in. But I do remember that Super Bowl, the second one in that with Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms and Hostetler and everybody else. But then stuck throughout the mid-'90s, which were rough. Tom, I don't know if you were even around yet, but the mid-'90s were ugly. And, by the time I hit high school, we drafted Eli, had a nice little chapter there, and then back in purgatory for the last how many years?
Purgatory. That's
what it is.
That is what it is, quite frankly. And the room specifically, how is that going? I know you were recently entered into some competition with license plate guy for like one of the top like Superfan man caves.
Yeah, I it was through a company called Fan Zone who makes home style scoreboards. They're actually pretty cool. They're like $5,000. These big ornate scoreboards. That was the prize. Picked by Giants players. I kind of brought a knife to a gunfight with that. Like, I have a very modest homegrown Giants fan kind of feel. A lot of, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in here, but in comparison to what those guys had with, some of them are like 7, 8, 900 square foot man caves, with game worn stuff. But yeah, just to make top 7 out of 50, I was happy with that.
That's sick. That is pretty sick that you got that high.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But on to the season a little bit. By the way, who are you wearing tonight? Who do you got?
We got Jesse Armstead going.
Yeah, love that. Top 100
absolutely.
all-time Giants.
He was great.
Since this moment, we're going to have a little fun here. Since this moment, not much has changed, right? Other than
except DeVito's a Patriot.
Yeah.
I still own all those clothes. Danny still looks like that.
Yeah. Overall, is 2-6 where you expected this team to be at this point of the season?
It's where I expected them to be. It's not how I expected them to get there, if that makes any sense. In my head, I was like, yeah, I can see Russ getting us to 2-6 by now. And I thought organically this would be where we transition into Dart halfway through the year. Like everything else, Dable does things kind of backwards. I don't know if you remember the beginning of the year, he was throwing Dart in for these weird running plays that nobody was really fooled on. And then Russ fell apart and handed Dart the keys kind of, in my opinion, as a desperation. This kid might be able to save my job. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending how you look at it, I think he's going to get Dable one more year at least.
Yeah, and speaking of Dart, let's talk about him, and let's take our DeVito jerseys off the screen there. As much as I do miss him, definitely nice to see him as part of one of the three amigos. Yep. With all the
he also cost us a number 1 pick, by the way. You could make a theory that but whatever, we liked him.
Yeah, you certainly could. Now I want to ask you this about Jackson Dart. Last year we were at a Giants game together, right, with my brother Danny, who is your best friend essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we kept on saying we need a new quarterback. We need a new quarterback. We need to fire Dable. We need to fire Shane, right? One of those dominoes fell into place. The Giants got a new quarterback in Jackson Dart, and he has been named NFL Offensive Rookie of the Month. With the Cam Skattebo injury, how could that potentially affect Dart's development? Because you're already missing Neighbors, and now you're missing the guy, fellow rookie like him, chip on their shoulder, blue
and
collar
like
guy.
This.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a 1 and 1A. Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for Dart. Skattebo is he's a firebug. He's a firework. He's a firecracker, whatever term you want to use. For a rookie, he has a high amount of leadership. And whenever the team's down, he was kind of cheering up everybody on the sidelines to try to do more. And guys like Neighbors, who I love, Malik Neighbors, he's a great receiver. He's probably going to be a top 10 league receiver for most years of his career, but I don't see an ounce of leadership out of him. Where I do see it with Skattebo, I see it with Dart, obviously. Wide receivers are a little funny. So without Skattebo, I think Dart's going to struggle a little bit. I think, it's kind of like Batman and Robin's missing. That's the best way I could put it. But he's a tough kid. I wish he would stop leading with his helmet, but he's been a sight for sore eyes, that's for sure.
And for those of you that don't know, or if you've been living under a rock, Cam Skattebo, 4th-round pick out of Arizona State this year, unfortunately went down with that severe injury on Sunday. So specifically, he suffered a fractured fibula, deltoid ligament rupture, and the dislocated ankle. And the surgery was done right away in Philly on Sunday night at Penn Hospital in nearby Philadelphia. Should be back for Big Blue's off-season program. So, George, that's certainly inspiring that this is only a 6-month recovery time for a guy like Skattebo. And based off these pictures we're showing here, truthfully, what he meant to his teammates, what he meant to this organization. And like you even mentioned it to me last year, the Giants are missing these moxie type of guys that have that winning attitude. Like, yeah, I'm going to run through your face. I'm going to pick you up like a truck with no brakes. I'm going to run right through your mouth. Yep. They didn't have that. Tyrone Tracy's not that way. Don't get me wrong. Great rookie year, ran for 1,000 yards. But he's not Cam Skattebo. And it's going to be very different in that locker room. I hope he's able to be back around the team soon.
Yeah, I do too. Like I said, I think both guys, for the longevity purpose of their career, need to make some adjustments in the decisions they make. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a rah-rah, run the football down your throat kind of guy. But when you're doing it every down, regardless of down and distance, especially dart, I mean, I've seen him do it going out of bounds. He's not even going to gain anything more. He's just doing it to do it. You know, these guys are going to get hurt. I mean, how many times has Dart been in the tent this year? And he's
too many.
You know, makes you a little nervous, but
it does. Now I want to ask you this: the Giants clearly don't have the personnel around this guy right now for them to be successful. They just don't, regardless of how you slice it. Tracy, Wan'Dale, Slayton, all respectable players in this league, but they're not difference makers on the field, in my opinion. Even you could throw Theo Johnson in there and Daniel Bellinger too. I mean, these guys are not very good, quite frankly. In all due respect,
I would say that. You don't think Wan'Dale's a good slot guy?
I think he's good.
I mean, he needs two other good receivers.
But he's not. Let me rephrase that. He's not good as a number one.
Oh, no.
He's good as a slot. He's good as your number 2, number 3 option, passing-wise in an offense. He cannot be that number one guy who you're throwing the ball to 7-8 times a game for 80, 90 yards, right? He's not that.
Totally agree.
We could agree on that? Okay. Yeah.
But to me, he has to be the third guy. You get Neighbors back. You get someone in the offseason who can kind of, bounce off of Neighbors, and then Wan'Dale in the slot. I do like Theo as well. He can work on clapping the ball, but he's got a lot of drops. But
it kind of reminds me of Evan Ingram a little bit, except a bigger body. He's actually built like a tight end, as where Ingram was built like a receiver. But some of the same mental issues seem to be there. I think that's a bad comparison. Maybe Larry Donnell might be better because Donnell made some great catches. Like, he had some great moments for the Giants. And then there's Theo, mental issues, dropping passes. I mean, you saw that throw by Dart. That should have been caught. That one ball, perfect. That would have been a touchdown, I think. Insane.
Yeah, you got to remember the youth on this team, too. I mean, a lot of these guys are very young. Theo's a second-year player coming off a injury in his first year, so he didn't even have a full complement of games to, get NFL ready. You know what I mean?
But
there's some stuff he does do that I like very well. But again, when you encompass the whole offense, it's terrible.
Speaking of the offense, 2 awful draft picks Joe Shane made, Jalen Hyatt and Evan Neal. Both healthy scratches, by the way, last week. Both have expressed interest in getting fresh starts elsewhere. Do you think the Giants make a trade before the deadline for either one or both of these guys? Because obviously they kind of need a receiver, but I'm not willing to give up future draft capital. What do you think about this?
I really don't think it matters. I don't think either one would really be held in high regard in a trade scenario. They're coming up on their options, right? Evan Neal, 22 draft, right? So he's not gonna get an option deal. He's definitely not going to get long-term signed. If someone thinks they can fix something in his game, I mean, his attitude was terrible. He already lost the fans, within 15 months of being a Giant. Jalen Hyatt, a little more mysterious. I don't know. He went from being a part of this team to just standing and holding his helmet on the sideline. I give him credit. He's not blasting anyone in the media or anything, but there's clearly some sort of disconnect, especially in a wide receiver room that's so short. You're pulling practice squad guys up. Give them a shot if there's something there. But I'm not on the team and I'm not in the coaching staff, but there's something going on with that. And if they want fresh starts, albeit, go ahead.
Yeah. Speaking of stuff in the media, we're going a little off script here.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Dexter Lawrence called Giants legend Carl Banks delusional after Banks said opposing players don't respect him anymore. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence, beloved Giant, longest tenured Giant, no sacks this season, might be dealing with the lingering effects of an injury that he suffered last year. And George, you've been to at least one game this season at this point. What
Yeah,
do you think of this?
I was actually surprised by it. I don't necessarily know the context and what the whole conversation was, but Carl Banks, he's one of my favorite players of all time. And even more than that, I like his podcast, his play calling of the games. I thoroughly enjoy him. I don't know if he was just trying to light a match on the fire. That's my guess. He's a Giants employee. All right. He has locker room access. He's always with these guys. I think he was just trying to get a fire started because he's having, obviously, production-wise, not a great year.
Fair.
Respect, I don't think, was the right word. You can respect somebody and not be worried about playing them. You know what I mean?
Well, let's be real here. He's still getting double teamed, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. I mean, that's why he's not getting what he's getting. But I think what Carl's saying is, Dexter, you've been double teamed your whole career. Ever since.
Whole career.
Yeah. Why now? Why is it slipping now? Is the question. I mean, I think it's a fair question for him to ask, but the way he worded it was off the rails, and it got Dexter pissed. And like you said, there might be something. You might be onto something there, trying to make this quote, right? Paint a picture saying, oh, why would Carl Banks say that? And then the next week, Dexter Lawrence comes out and has 2-3 sacks, and Carl tones it back, and he's like, that's why I said that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't see
that's
anything wrong with it.
That's the only thing I could think of. I think the whole defense has to get put on blast. Not just Dexter Lawrence. I'm not trying to throw shade at Abdul Carter or anything, but I know he has a lot of stuff that doesn't show up in a box score. But when you are drafted as high as he is, when you come into this building and you start asking for Lawrence Taylor's number, you got to do better than that. That's my opinion. But
yeah. And it kind of translates to this defensively, right? I mean, Shane Bowen was hired to be a run-stuffing specialist. Giants are dead last in rush defense in the NFL. And you remember early 2000s, even our two most recent Super Bowl runs, the Giants were elite at stopping the run. I mean, you had guys out there like Justin Tuck, Michael Strahan, Armstead, Barry Cofield, Keith Hamilton, Dexter Lawrence even. Like, where has that gone? Since the hiring of Shane Bowen, I mean, Joe Shane has spent 0 draft picks. Or, excuse me, I'm wrong. 1 this past draft on Darius Alexander, defensive tackle out of Toledo in the 3rd round. 1 draft pick in 4 drafts in the top 100 on defensive tackle. Right?
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't know what I think the bigger problem is the scheme and the coaching and the discipline. So I don't think the talent's a problem. I think most teams would take that front 4 in a heartbeat. I mean, they have a very unique problem. They have Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter. They can throw all sorts of different disguises out there. They could run a NASCAR package if they wanted to. They have a lot of flexibility in that front 4. And, people knock Nacho because he's kind of the low-hanging fruit, but he's a pretty good player. He's not Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, but he's pretty close to that. And I think the scheme, it's a base 3-4. They do some 2-4-5. They do this goofy zone thing that drives me nuts. I was at the game against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs were not playing well. The Giants were not playing too well. that was a winnable game. And in every big spot, every cornerback was giving 5, 6, 7 yards on a bump zone on 3rd and 4. Like, what are you doing? Like play man, make him beat your best guy. And the other thing is, every time they put in Deonte Banks now, the other quarterback just picks on whoever that is. It doesn't matter what receiver it is. They're going to pick on Deonte Banks, and guess what? They win. So I think the scheme is goofy. I think something like this, when you got this kind of talent, I know they're down like a Micah McFadden, let's say, a guy that can kind of bounce off of Okereke.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to go into more of a 4-3. They got to throw some more blitzes. They got to get multiple guys in the backfield. The secondary sucks anyway. You might as well have the pressure up front. Now we have no pressure up front. The secondary still sucks. That's just my opinion from my couch, of course. But
look, you're right, because look at what the Eagles were able to do last Sunday. I'm not just talking about Barkley, right? First play of the game, 65-yard touchdown, great.
Stuff happens.
Tank Bigsby, the backup, had 107 yards on like 9, 10 carries. That's unacceptable. You gave up 276 rushing yards. And, I'm sick and tired of Bowen. These press conferences every week, cringeworthy quotes that he makes. And you mentioned the secondary, George. It's going to get worse. Cordell Flott has not practiced all week. Paulson Adebo has not practiced all week. He's still recovering from his injury. Javon Holland should be back on Sunday, but that's not going to thread the needle that much. I mean, you got Deonte Banks, and then this random guy they picked up off waivers from the Browns, Jarek Converse, was picked up off of waivers this week. Right now, he is slated to start.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's why we lost the Denver game. Couldn't cover. This soft zone.
We also lost the Denver game because they weren't subbing guys out in that fourth quarter. I knew that was going to come back to bite them. Mile High is a different animal. Those guys are used to it. We're obviously not. We're undisciplined as it is, and I think they caught. If you remember the end of the Broncos game, every Giants player on defense had his hand on his hips, huffing and puffing.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're limited on timeouts. There's not a lot you can do, but they should have made some substitutions, get these guys some oxygen. But I agree with you. Like, the secondary's been awful. As much as I like Drew Phillips, his aggression and stuff, he's the most penalized defensive back in the league, corner in the league. So, we have one guy who's super aggressive, wants to be all over the ball, but he cost us yardage. And then we have Deonte Banks that has no clue where the ball is. He has no awareness that's coming to him, and they just pick on him. And he's not the only one. Nubin has taken a big regression backwards.
Let's talk about him for a second. Nubin, I just want to stop you there for one quick second. I have a stat that's going to blow your mind. This is how bad Tyler Nubin really is. I like the guy personally. I think he's a great dude, wants to be here. He's the only DB since 1999, 26 years, to record 0 picks and 2 or fewer pass breakups combined through his first 21 NFL starts, and that's through StatHead.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes those stats could be weighted, though, if you're not getting the ball to you out of respect. But his rookie year, he was good. He was solid. This year, he's another one. But I think it's part of this scheme again. I don't think anyone's happy with this scheme, like the player-wise. There's nobody going, hey, I like giving up 380 yards a game. You're not going to win a lot of football games giving that up, plus the penalty discipline, plus your injuries on offense. You're mathematically not going to win a lot of games.
Well, quickly here before we move on, Banks, right? Drafted. Wink was still defensive coordinator. What scheme did Wink run? Press
4-3.
Man.
And a 4-3.
Mm-hmm. What was Banks' specialty as a corner? Press man coverage, right?
Man coverage.
But now he's dropping back into the soft zone, and it's not working. It's not.
You have to be an elite level cornerback to play that type of zone, because basically you're giving up the play and you're good enough to either jump the ball, make a play, or force a fumble or tackle out of bounds. We're none of those.
You're right.
And we're slow. Like most receivers could kind of just take the seam up against. I don't know how many times I've seen Banks get pulled away from. So
Yeah,
it's not a good secondary.
It might be Corey Black, 7th-round rookie, starting instead of that Converse guy, but we'll see. Speaking of which, personnel-wise, right, really bad stuff. Before we get into the X's and O's of this game against the 49ers, do you think Dable and Shane should be able to see this team through next year? I know you've been very vocal on this, but speaking of where they are now, I know you kind of hinted to something earlier in the show about Dable specifically. How are you feeling at this juncture?
I think Jackson Dart is the golden goose. I think Dable was headed towards the shredder.
Yeah.
Dart, a guy he wanted, a guy he believes in, a guy you can almost make some comparisons to Josh Allen style play. Yeah, so it looks like a thumbs up so far. You're not going to break that marriage up, especially if you think there's more to come. I think Joe Shane stays, unfortunately, another year. I think they're going to give both of those guys one more chance. I don't know how. I don't know how you don't go away from Bowen, though. I really the numbers are through the roof. But how many people can Brian Dable put this on? You know, he's been coaching this team since 2022. You know, and they kind of scapegoated Daniel Jones, and now look at him.
What did I tell you? Do we want to open this can of worms here, George?
Well, I'm saying he's on a good team with a great run game, great coaching, good defense, decent receivers, and all of a sudden he's Johnny Unitas. Look at Saquon Barkley. I mean, do I think he's having a good year now? No, but he had a 2,000-plus yard year, Super Bowl champion. Julian Love looks better not wearing a uniform. Xavier McKinney looked better not wearing our uniform. There's something wrong with this team. And in my opinion, how much rope do you give a coach? I mean, this is pretty crazy to me. Like, he's blamed everybody. He's blamed Jones. He's blamed Wink Martindale. You know, I'm pretty sure he blamed Kafka at times when he kept taking the book back every 3 games. Remember that a couple years ago? He kept taking the play calling back.
Yep.
Strikes me as a guy that doesn't say it's on me, which I don't like. I'd rather you come to me and say, I tried, I failed, this is what it is. You blamed everybody else. I don't know how many more people he could blame, but Jackson Dart 1,000,000% saved his job for one more year.
Yeah, he's going to save this guy, at least for now. First player to win Offensive Rookie of the Month since Odell Beckham Jr. First Giant, I should say, to win that award. 2-3 record should be 4-1, in my opinion. 984 yards through the air. He's averaging 236 yards per game, 12 total touchdowns, 3 picks. And again, look, the Saints game, I could look past that. Yeah, it sucks to lose to the Saints. Like, the result of the game, it's really bad. But these guys are rookies. I mean, this is going to sound horrible. You almost have to let them turn the ball over a little bit because they use that growing pain as a learning tool moving forward as, hey, you shouldn't do this in a game in the NFL. You can't get away with the same shit you did in college here, right? It's not good.
Absolutely.
Skattebo. We all love Skattebo. We think he's going to be great. And he had that fumble that they returned for a touchdown that inevitably cost us the game. Cost us the game. You know? You turn the ball over 5 times, you're not going to win. You're not.
No.
No way.
But again, a lot of this goes back to coaching and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think Dable is a very smart offensive mind. He'd probably be one hell of a coordinator with somebody else building the fundamentals of the team, but he's the one drawing everything. But I mean, I just don't know how much more room you give this. I've never seen an NFL coach been given this many chances.
Yeah, and I don't think anything's happening anytime soon, especially, you know, John Mara, things that he's dealing with off the field. And I think there is improvement from last season. Not much with the record, but we'll see.
Well, the other thing is, who do you replace him with?
That's another good point. Who's
that
out
was
there?
that's my question. You have this fairy tale that Bill Belichick's going to get fired out of UNC and walk back into the, a place he has a great connection with. It's not going to happen. What are you going to do? You're going to take a flyer on like a Mike McDaniels or something when he gets fired? There's nothing out there right now, which also helps Dable.
Right. Yeah, timing is everything. And I think the Giants have to stick with Dable right now, even if they do want to move on. But speaking of moving on, here we go. 49ers, East Coast, West Coast, non-divisional rivalry. Kind of low-key, but it's always been a thing. Giants, they're desperate. So far this week, they worked out Deontay Johnson. Know a lot about him. NFL receiver, drop problems, but they're desperate. They're looking for answers. Jarek Bernard-Converse picked off waivers from the Browns. A guy who excels in zone coverage and run support. Scheme fit, but he's a backup. He is a fringe NFL 53-man roster guy. Rico Payton. They opened his 21-day window. He's designated to return. So we'll see what happens with that secondary, George. And I think immediately, right, we got to talk about 49ers. We don't even know who's starting at quarterback for them this week.
You got to remember, too, we have cap problems. So this is about the best we can do to kind of put something on the field. I think we gain a little bit more next year once the Daniel Jones contract goes away. But, yeah, 49. I'm actually going to this game Sunday, so I hope it's a good game.
Yeah.
Probably going to be Mac Jones starting, I would assume. Ricky Pearsall's also out, so
their center's out too.
They're marred with injuries as well, so it could just be an old-fashioned clunker of a game. But the 49ers are a better football team at the moment, for sure.
Yeah. The two most injury-prone teams in the NFL as of late. Giants 2-1 at home this year. Niners, they're coming off a tough loss last week, George. They lost to the Texans on the road. Defensively, yes, Salah is back, but they gave up 318 passing yards to C.J. Stroud, even without Nico Collins, and we know that Houston offensive line is bad. It's really bad, and I think the Giants, ironically enough, have a better offensive line unit than the Texans do right now. And the Niners only held the ball for 18 and a half minutes the entire game. McCaffrey only with 8 rushes. I mean, right now, they're in a little bit of a trapped corner too. They really don't have answers either on both sides of the ball. They're desperate. They made a trade this week. They traded for Keon White from the New England Patriots, 2023 second-round pick, because they've been trying to replace Nick Bosa. And when you don't have the personnel, you can't rush the passer. You can't get sacks. And with Bosa being out, they're able to put the attention on their first-round draft pick, Mikael Williams. Can't get to the quarterback either. So, George, what do you think is key for the Giants? You're there Sunday. You're yelling from the stands, Dable this, Dable that. You got to fix this, man. What does Big Blue got to do to come out victorious and pull off this upset? By the way, it's only 2.5-point line, which is surprising.
Hold on to the football. Play smart. Time of possession is going to be huge. I'm kind of nervous because I feel like McCaffrey's due for like a huge game, like 18, 19 rushes, 2 touchdowns, 170. Like just one of those games where he's going to have his way. And we are the perfect defense for that. Barring that doesn't happen, I'm not really scared of Mac Jones. I think Burns is going to have a few sacks. Dexter is going to be fired up. Hopefully he can. I think he gets a sack or two. And he starts breaking out his Dexter dance, I think we'll all know who's in the building. I don't know. I'm kind of expecting an ugly game. These are two teams with two different destinies. Obviously, the 49ers are a little more in the hunt. I guess we are too mathematically, but The 49ers, if they get Purdy back, they get some of their injured players back. You never know. They're well coached. They always are. Anything can happen once you get into the later end of the season. For us, I think Jackson Dart, just try to see if you can have that game by yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, you don't have the 80, 90 hard rushing yards of Skattebo at your leisure. You're going to have to work with Tracy. I kind of think Wandale's going to have a big game. I think he's going to have 6, 7, 8 receptions, 70, 80, 90 yards, something like that. I think he's one guy that'll be able to be evasive in that defense. But it's typical Giants football. You know how it is. We're going to have a bad PI call. We're going to have some shift in the game where it's hard to come back from, and that's coaching and discipline.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. Starting with the turnovers, Niners have forced the most fumbles in the NFL. They're number 1 in that stat, forced fumbles caused. You mentioned Dart. Took 5 sacks last week, but only one of them was credited to the offensive line. He does take a lot of sacks, but at least he gets close to the line of scrimmage because he's able to run and maneuver through traffic. It's like, racing on a highway a little bit, or drag racing around a high school in that regard.
Touche.
Yeah. So and this O-line, I mentioned this offensive line. I don't think people realize how good we have it at both tackle spots right now.
They're studs. Illuminor and Andrew Thomas are top notch. If we could figure the center's got to go. JMS is not one of my favorites. You're probably higher up on him than me, but without the tackles, we'd be in a world of hurt right now.
Yeah. I'm not the highest on JMS. I think he's better than people give him credit for. I think with Priscillo as the O-line coach, he's improved his game a lot. And I think what really falls under the radar is playing next to Greg Van Roten, who older player, not as good as he used to be. He's been a journeyman to begin with. Learning from him, I think he's improved.
That's been what we've patched our O-line with the last 10 years.
Yeah.
We get guys past their prime, and we plug gaps with draft picks. Luckily, AT's a good player when he's on the field. Great player, all-pro player. But he's been obviously injury prone. I think Illuminor was one of the best pickups we had as far as
bring him back.
Bringing him into the team. I think he's great. But, Runyon, Van Roten, years back we had Feliciano. We always brought these guys in 3-4 years too late. And the impact is never – our line's been bad for a really long time, almost going back to Odell Beckham being on the Giants.
Going back to the last Super Bowl win, too, that line wasn't great. Will Beatty, Deal was still good, but he was on his last legs. Chris Snee was close to retirement, as was McKenzie. And then they had Kevin Booth at left guard, who was average at best. I mean, those guys were all good players. And David Boz, of course, we can't forget about him. But then after that, I mean, there are a couple of guys you didn't even mention, Nate Solder, Mark Lewinsky, guys like that. Just terrible free agent signings, overpays. And, yeah, man, it's not good. It was part of the reason why Daniel Jones got ruined. Luckily, I think Dart has passed the IQ test to the point where he can play behind a rugged offensive line and make plays. Jones could not do that. And that's one advantage I do think we do have in this game, right? If we can get to Mac Jones, right? If we can get pressure on Mac Jones and flatter him, he does not have the ability to escape the pocket when it crashes. Dart's able to escape. Mac Jones cannot. He is your meat and potatoes pocket passer quarterback of the 90s and early 2000s. He is not going to run much at all. And when you got Brian Burns coming at you, 10 sacks through 8 games, it's pretty good. And not for nothing, we sacked Hurts 4 times last week. Problem was we couldn't cover and gave up 4 touchdown passes too. So it was either feast or famine for that Giants defense. Crazy.
No, that's the best way you could put them. They're going to look really good one play. and then give away the house the next series. There's no consistency. It's just ugly. It's an ugly brand of football.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's. I'm not. I mean, I'm invested as a fan, but I couldn't imagine being on that team. Like I could not imagine just having that aura. Losing is a mentality, and right now, the last 7, 8, 9 years, with the exception of 2022, which let's face it, was a year where every single thing went our way. We were not a great football team. We just had a lot of hop, skip, and jump things happen in big spots, and Jones had great games at important times. Other than that, we've been a losing team for a long time. Probably back to the boat picture. That was kind of the start of it. Um, so it's a mentality. So when they must be sick of walking back into the locker room, holding their helmet, shrugging, or yelling, or cursing, or fighting with each other, whatever they do when they leave. Because this is a mentality at this point. It's not a skid. It's not a, oh, we're going to get better when this guy gets back. This is what we are right now.
Yeah, there's no way they could be happy right now. And you talked about McCaffrey before. I want to hit on one more thing with him before we move forward here. Giants allow 6 yards per carry on the ground per play. The defense basically hands out these king-sized candy bars to these other running backs. And when you got a guy like, pun intended with Halloween being tomorrow, McCaffrey only had 8 carries last week. And the Niners as a team only average 89 rush yards per game. So if there's a time to flip the script and stop the run, it's now. It'll be Matt Hennessy, not Jake Brendel at center for them. So if you're Dexter Lawrence, you have to crash and win the line of scrimmage. You can't lose this. And I want to see more Darius Alexander out there. I know you like Nacho, George, as do I. He's not going to be on the team next year, most likely. So
I don't think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be either. But
well, I think they exercised his 5th year.
They did.
So he will be on the team next year because I forget which team it was. They didn't say. Somebody tried to trade for him, and Joe Shane said no. And then a report came out. I forget if it was Duggan or Renan. Basically said the plan is for Thibodeau to be a Giant in 2026.
Yeah, I think the Patriots tried to grab him.
Yeah,
but
that would make sense.
it was the New England Patriots that tried to put a trade package in.
What else do we got here? And with Tracy too, what do you think of that? I mean, what do you think this is a guy who you were the starter coming into the year, then you got hurt, then this rookie took your job. Now he's done for the year and you're back as a starter. He's basically a pogo stick, right? I mean, if you're Tyrone Tracy, George, what's the mindset going into this game? Because clearly you have to establish the running game if you're going to win the football. And if you watch the film, Houston had the ball for 41 minutes last week. 41. That is unheard of in this modern era of NFL.
I think he's a professional. He's going to do the best he can. He's a great player, in my opinion. He has a bright future if he stays the course. I was high on him last year. I like his style of running. I don't mind having 2 running backs either. Like, we've had very successful teams with 2 or 3 running backs sometimes. So, I don't think we have to have Skattebo or nothing. I think he can complement Skattebo's type of running. Tracy's a little more smoother, a little more jump cutty. Skattebo is just trying to draw contact. I like Tyrone Tracy. I mean, again, the line's going to be the problem. Like I said, I don't think he's a great enough running back to persevere every week over bad line play, if that's what you're trying to ask. But I think he'll have the normal pedestrian Giants running game of how many touches and 50, 60, 70 yards maybe. Depends on the game, too. If they're down early, he's going to get, obviously, less touches. It's going to be more pass RPO stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how the chips fall.
We certainly will. And let's get to our players to watch for the 49ers and the Giants. George, so basically how this segment works, you pick 2 or 3 players from each team, guys you think might not be, doesn't always have to be that star guy, right? A guy matchup based that you think could have a significant impact on this game for whatever reason it might be. So we'll go, you can just rip off the 49ers guys and then the Giants guys, and then I'll go.
Obviously, 49ers, Christian McCaffrey. One thing we didn't talk about is he's very effective in the pass game. So even if he's not being utilized rushing the football, he's still dangerous in the pass game, which we're not good at covering. So I wouldn't be shocked if he had a few big screen type plays or something like that. And then the second one I want to pick is honestly Mac Jones. I think he's going to have a better game. I think he's a better quarterback than people give him credit for. I think he got cut bait pretty early out of New England. He's won some big games this year. He's looked decent. He is a statue, so he has that going against him. But some of his decision making isn't all that terrible. I think if there's a defense for him to shine on, with the exception of the sack problem, I think he's going to have a lot of open looks to his receivers on Sunday.
Yeah. Mac Jones, Christian McCaffrey, great picks. Whether we like it or not, Mac Jones is 4-2 as the starter of San Francisco. Not a threat to run. And Dable has familiarity with this guy, right? Dable was the OC at Alabama in 2017. Mac Jones was a true freshman that year with Tua and Hurts. They were all there together. So he knows them. He knows them like an open book, and you would hope that that's able to translate with Shane Bowen. But I don't feel confident at all in that, despite Dable's knowledge.
I mean, they don't have a lot of good receivers, though. They're very thin at receiver.
Right. Well, they're down. Who is it? Bourne and Juwan Jennings. I think that's their top 2, especially if Pearsall doesn't play. Forget about it. And that kind of works to our benefit too, no? With our secondary issues, and which is why I think Kittle is my player to watch on offense for them, because you saw what he did coming back last week. He scored a touchdown. Jake Tongs did a good job in relief, but Kittle's a threat. And I don't know about you. I don't like Darius Muasau. I don't think he's good. I think he's a backup at best. He tries, but Okereke's getting older. He's slow. He can't guard tight ends, in my opinion. He's more of a run-stopping linebacker. Mm-hmm. McFadden's the guy, and we don't have him to cover Kittle. He's the one guy that I think could drop back and cover these linebackers, and he's not available. So I don't know how we're going to be able to cover him. We saw what happened with Dallas Goedert last week. Did you see that play action rollout where they got pressure on Hurts, and you could see – and once Goddard starts moving forward, he's scoring a touchdown. There's nobody there to bring him down. Yeah. So bad.
Well, Isaiah Simmons is out there if they want to take a flyer and see if there's a guy that can switch it up a little bit. I have no idea who's going to cover Kittle. They're going to take turns.
Yeah. Newman, God willing.
Well, that's why I said more of like a hybrid guy like Simmons, who is fast enough to stay with at least a tight end.
Right.
But and he's looking for a new team, so you never know.
We should get Javon Holland back this week. So that is a plus for the Giants. I also like Trent Williams. I think matchup of the week, nobody's talking about this. Trent Williams against Brian Burns. That is the matchup of the game. Williams is old, right? He's been in the league for a long time, and he is a lockdown.
He's tough.
He is. I mean, you look at the Niners' offensive line. This is what we're looking at, George. 3rd best run blocking unit, 11th best pass blocking unit. And it all starts with Trent Williams. He's that good. He has allowed 3 sacks this year, but he's going up against the team's best pass rusher every single week. And the other 4 starters are no-name guys. I mean, do you know who Connor Colby, Dominic Pooney, Colton McKivitz are? I don't. Nope. We should feast in this game, rushing the passer. There's no reason why we shouldn't. And that is why Christian McCaffrey is their leading receiver. Because Mac Jones, You said it before. They don't have the best receivers. Yeah, because they can't get separation in time because the O-line gives Jones no time. And that's why McCaffrey leads them in receiving yards. He's got over 550 receiving yards already and 56 catches through 8 games. So you hit the nail on the head. That's always the player to watch when you play the 49ers. But I want to throw Kittle in there too because the middle of the field is open. I don't like Bourne. I don't like Jennings either in this game. I think the Giants, not because their secondary is good, but because the pass rush will get to the quarterback when they rush 4.
I mean, ideally, I would like Abdul Carter to have a breakout game. Maybe this is the kind of game where he can get all his stuff out. But I think Burns is going to have a really good game. I just have a feeling. I think Dexter inside is going to be a little more pissed off than usual. What are your thoughts on Carter? You were kind of silent about him earlier.
With Abdul, this is the thing, and I brought this stat up a couple weeks ago. He's top 15 in the league in pressures. So he has more pressures than Thibodeau and Burns right now. It's just not translating into sacks. If I remember correctly, with the exception of Aiden Hutchinson, all of the star rookie pass rushers of recent memory, like Micah Parsons, Will Anderson Jr., guys like that, did not have many sacks in their first half of their rookie season. It was towards the middle portion or the second half of the season where those numbers started to produce. And to your point, before with McFadden, with him being out, Carter is having to play a little bit of inside linebacker and drop back into coverage. We know he's great at rushing the passer, but he's a Swiss Army knife. He's so versatile, and I think they need him more in coverage right now. I know there's plenty of plays where he's rushing the passer. Burns is just getting there quicker, quite frankly. That's how I feel about it. I don't necessarily think it's a knock on Carter that the sacks aren't there. And even Thibodeau, his rookie year, right? I think Carter's better than Thibodeau already. We haven't seen the sack numbers yet, but Thibodeau only had 4 sacks his rookie year. Only 4. But the pressures were top 20 in the league. This year, we're kind of seeing a similar trend with Carter. But we also haven't played many non-mobile quarterbacks yet. So I want to see if those numbers pick up this week. I actually like him to get a sack this week. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with him. I don't know if you agree or if that kind of maybe, I don't know, opens your eyes to like how I think about it.
Coaching scheme and discipline, right? So you have Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. Let's just use those 3 guys. Rotate those guys in and out all over the place, opposite field, anytime, every play, something different. They're not going to know what's going on. They're looking for Thibodeau, Burns is here. They're looking for Burns. They draw the double. Carter's coming through. Everything we do, regardless of what our personnel is very boring and safe. They're just lucky enough that Brian Burns is an exceptional player, and he can even succeed in that. He's a really good defensive end. He has multiple moves, multiple point of attack. His speed for his size is incredible. I just think they need to be a little more less exotic and just go back to what these guys' strengths are. For a guy like Thibodeau, to me, he wants to kill the quarterback every play in his head. Burns is going to take an edge double. Dexter Lawrence is going to take most of the doubles on the interior. Should leave him open to swing. Should leave Carter open to swing. You keep rotating those guys left and right like we used to do with the NASCAR package with the 4-3. That was very hard to come up with a game plan because, all right, we're going to isolate Tuck. Cool. Now OC's getting 6 sacks. All right, we're going to take OC out of the game. Now Tuck is a problem. Now all of a sudden Matthias Kuanuka's got 3 or 4 sacks.
Yeah.
Right now we're very for as aggressive as our line could be, we're playing a very safe, weird, goofy zone football that I don't think anybody likes, including the players.
No, I don't think they like it at all. But speaking of those players and the Giants, couple players on the Giants that you think might have a significant impact on this game. I think I know where you're going with one of them, George, but just 2 or 3 guys that you think San Francisco might have some trouble with.
I think Wan'Dale Robinson's going to have a decent game. Like I said, he's not a number one. He's going to end up being more of a check valve, probably without Skattebo there, or good tight end play. But him in the slot, I think he's going to have a pretty steady, good, decent game. I kind of think Darius Slayton, if he's playing, obviously, when he's on the field, he's not great. Don't get me wrong, but that PI call that took away that touchdown, he's showing shades of what he used to be as far as a route runner. If Dart has the time to get it to him, he's got no other option. They're going to get a lot of work, especially if they're losing. So I'm going to say 1A and 1 would be Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, and Brian Burns, I think, is going to have a big game.
Yeah, I'm with you there on Brian Burns. Like I said before, I think that matchup is critical. I also think Theo Johnson, even though last week he didn't have a great game, 4 touchdowns over the last 4 games. Mm-hmm. That's a guy that Dart has been targeting, and Daniel Bellinger has not practiced this week with the neck injury. So his status is in jeopardy. Eventually, a guy that has not been talked about at all yet, Thomas Fidone, 7th-round rookie out of Nebraska, tight end. We're eventually going to learn about him. Coming out of high school, he was ranked higher than Brock Bowers. Reason why he fell to the 7th round, 2 season-ending injuries at Nebraska that haunted his production. So I think that tight end room is going to be critical this week as well, because the difference between Russ and Dart is actually able to target the middle of the field consistently. Russ couldn't do that. He couldn't. Speaking of which, I know I've been kind of ignoring the comments a little bit, but a few here. Brian Attard says Dart is legit, and that's coming from a Cowboys fan, by the way. Shout out, Brian. CG, what's up, CG? Says, may the best team win. And then the Mexican, oh man, it must be a Jackson Heights guy here. Be honest, boys. Niners winning this. And my mom also commented, but she commented on the post. Can't access those. Gotta love Facebook. Couple issues there. We'll definitely share that up after the show in post-production.
Both teams are decimated. We're not going to get this, instant classic football game. I could be wrong, but you're not going to see anything near even the fireworks of the Giants-Cowboys game. You know, it's gonna be a middle of the field, back and forth, hopefully kind of lower scoring affair the first half, and then hopefully we can just hang on.
I agree with you. I think one other player that I want to point out on the 49ers, Bryce Huff, leads a team with 4 sacks. Keep an eye on him, because now if you add Keon White to the mix, Mikael Williams, he's a guy that you got to look out for. And then an honorable mention is Diamador Lenore. It's their number 1 corner right now, along with Renardo Green. Pick and 3 passes defended over the last 2 weeks. He's a guy I'm keeping an eye on. He'll probably be getting Darius Slayton. And again, I know people talk a lot of shit about Darius Slayton. He is the best vertical threat we have on this team right now.
100%.
Like it or not. And he has been for the past 6 years. Well, take Neighbors out of the equation. Outside of Neighbors, he's been that guy. So that's where I'm at. George, if you're Brian Daboll, you go to the 49ers locker room, take the jersey off, put blue on them, which, by the way, I see what you did there with the Legacy uniform this week, because that is what they're wearing on Sunday. Who would you steal from the 49ers and put on the Giants?
Probably George Kittle.
Yeah?
Oh,
why him?
Because he's a great pass receiving tight end. It's something that is a big part of Giants history, obviously. He's phenomenal. He's not these tight ends are so. Gronkowski's another one. they look so big, they look so slow, but they always get open. I don't know how they do it. When the New York Giants have tight ends, we're big, slow, we get open, then we drop the ball. That's the Giants' way of doing it. But yeah, Kittle, I would love to have Kittle on the team.
Yeah. I'm going to go a little different here. I like Kittle. I think he'd be a great fit, huge upgrade. I'm going to go with D. Winters, the linebacker, because we have a massive hole at linebacker. We can't stop the run. He's an under-the-radar guy. He leads the Niners with 54 tackles. And talk about the walking wounded. They don't have Fred Warner this year on top of Nick Bosa. So these no-name guys have been stepping up and playing well. I think Tatum Bethune is worth a mention as well. 10 or more tackles in 3 straight games. You might be hearing Bethune's name on Sunday. But yeah, D. Winters for me, he's the number one guy that I'm taking. I would put a slight edge of Winters over Bethune. But that right there, that shows you how thin the 49ers are. Those guys, never heard of before.
They're decimated. They're just in a better position moving forward than we are. And I think they have better coaching. So
I'm just looking at like the film from the Houston game last week. This guy was good at attacking the hole, something Muasau was not good at. So that's kind of where I'm getting.
But think about the middle and outside linebackers the last few years. Outside of Micah and Bobby Okereke, we've just been shuffling guys in off either practice squad or really high draft picks.
Right, like Swayze Bozeman.
Yeah, you had him.
An example.
Habanaka, whatever that guy's name was for a little while, 2 years ago. No, I'm being serious. That was the guy's name. There was a lot of practice squad guys getting up and down.
What was his name?
Habanuka or something like that. It was like 2024.
Couldn't tell you.
McFadden went down for a little bit, for like a week or two, one of those years, and he popped in.
There was Victor Dimukeji.
Yep.
Flanagan Foles. There's a lot of random guys.
The point I'm making is we haven't
Neville
had
Hewitt.
really solid middle linebacker play, other than Bobby Okereke's tackles and Micah McFadden being able to run around and make great plays. You know, I thought he was an underrated piece of the defense.
Yeah.
And we don't have him, obviously. So.
No. And it might not be good on Sunday because the Giants had a lot of players who didn't practice today, including Chauncey Golston. And on top of the others we mentioned before, Jermaine Illuminor did not practice today either. So that'll definitely be interesting. And then for the Niners, Brock Purdy still dealing with that turf toe. He did some limited work. When asked this week, John Lynch, that was, whether or not Brock Purdy has been ruled out for week 9, he said, we'll see. So he's in jeopardy of missing his 7th game of the year. And then, of course, you have to talk about their center, Jake Brendel, did not practice either with a hamstring issue. So they might be down some guys, George. That's why I think there's a real chance the Giants could win this game, even though they're not supposed to. Which kind of leads us into our game predictions, our last segment of the show here, because I know Thursday Night Football's coming up. Got the kids at home, George. Talk to me here. Who is winning? Are you giving me that traditional podcast, like this is who I'm picking and why? Or are you giving me that homer pick, that Giants win, smash mouth football, bring us back on the road to a 500 season? Where are you going here? That was a little delusional on my part, but
I got to be a little honest. I think there's a strong possibility they lose this game. I think the discipline problem on this team is going to bite them, like it always has for the last couple of years under Brian Daboll. I think they're going to be in a tight game early, and I think they're going to pull away a little bit. I mean, I think it's going to be maybe a 10-point deficit, San Francisco winning. That's not what I want to have happen, but in my heart of hearts, watching thousands of these games, it doesn't take much for us to fall off the map right now.
Yeah.
You know, not to mention, if you remember in the Philadelphia game, big turning point in that game was when they didn't give Thibodeau that fumble. that just, but I mean, obviously Skattebo going down was a, deflation moment as well.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
there are certain things that neither team can control, which is obviously the referees and the officiating. So I'm going to say 24-14. If I had a gun to my head and had to make a choice, that's what it would be. The fan in me, I hope we win, 56-3. But
Well said. Also, before I make my pick here, my mom says in the comments, "Great show. You should have George on more often." That is Mrs. Skattebo right there. So,
well, thank you. Hope
Mom.
everything's well down in Florida.
Yeah. I'm sure they're enjoying that sunshine down there. This freaking retainer, is while we suffer up here in the cold and in the north, especially up by you, George. But yeah, I am also going with the 49ers, but I think Dart keeps them in this game. I think it's going to be a close game. I know you picked them to win by 10. I think it's a one-score game. I think Niners win by 4. I trust the Giants offense to score a little bit more, only because I think the Niners pass rush is a little bit weak right now. I know Salah is there, but when you give Dart time, no pun intended, he could throw darts down the football field. He is able to deliver. If Russ was playing this game, I think I'm going maybe they only score 7 to 10 points. And that's no knock on Russ. That's just where he's at in his career right now.
I feel bad for Russell Wilson. That man has played his way almost out of a Hall of Fame career.
He is a pro, though. He is a pro. He could have just quit on this team. He is.
Do you think he blew his arm out in that Cowboy game, though?
I think so. It's moonball or bust with him, right? Like, that's who he is at this point. There's no in between. He's not throwing accurate balls on cross routes, even on slants. Like, he just can't do it anymore. Like, remember the Philly game where Dart was getting evaluated for that concussion? He comes in for one play. He spends like 30 seconds at the line, pre-snap motion, audibles, shifts, protection alignment, everything. Just the ball just slips out of his freaking hand. It was a terrible example of where he is in his NFL career. And I think if he has one stop left in the NFL, I think Pete Carroll gives him one more shot next year out in Vegas if he's still the head coach. You don't think so?
No, I think when you're a guy like him, played at the level he played for so many, this has to be killing him.
Retire.
I mean, it didn't work in 3 other places at this point. You got taken out for Justin Fields in Seattle when you were, not Seattle, Pittsburgh. When you were in Denver, Sean Payton wasn't high up on you, obviously. I think he's done enough for the game. He's a great ambassador to the game, as far as the stuff he does off the field. He played the game the right way. It's nothing wrong with just taking off and heading out into the sunset.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because we could have actively traded him too.
We could have.
So just the lack of phone calls at that point, because Cincinnati needed a quarterback. There was a bunch of teams that needed somebody just for a 3, 4, 5 week stint, and they didn't call on him. So there was more calls on Jameis Winston.
Winston will be on this team next year as the 2, in my opinion. The only reason why he's the 3 is because they felt the need to sign both of those guys in the event they could not trade up to get Dart. If they could not make the trade up to get Dart, DeVito would still be here as the 3. Winston would be the 2, probably starting at this point, and Russ would be the 1. That's how, at least I think, the quarterback lineup depth chart would have started the season. Now, at this point, I think it would be Winston, Russ, DeVito. So
I agree.
It's interesting. But yeah, I'm going 27-23.
Wow.
Niners. This isn't going to be a game like in Denver. I don't know about you, but before we sign off, and I hate to end the show this way, but didn't that game 2 weeks ago in Denver feel like just a little bit like the 0-2 playoff game out in San Francisco where they're up by so many points and then the fourth quarter, it all falls apart.
Yeah, it
Like,
had shades of that for sure.
Because they couldn't kick either. Not that it came down to a kick on our end, but it kind of felt like that as far as like the hurt of that loss, right? I know it was a regular season game, but when you're up by that many points on the road like that, you gotta pull away. You gotta find a way to win. And
special teams ran out of play.
They played not to lose.
Yeah.
They played not to lose in that fourth quarter.
I agree. And there was some luck on our side too. The PI call, the 4th and 19 there, that was a huge play. Like that would not happen ordinarily in most games. But yeah, that was a heartbreaker for sure.
No, absolutely.
That was one of those games where I just went, this is what being a Giant fan is. They're going to take me to the top of the mountain, then they're going to push me over the cliff.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here from us. I think usually when we sweep the other way, the Giants usually win. That's how it goes on the history of the show, at least over the past couple of seasons. But not often has that happened. George, thank you so much for joining us. Before we let you off the hook, any final thoughts here?
Well, obviously, I'm going to the game, so I would like to be entertained. I want to have a good atmosphere, obviously. Hopefully, it's a game we can stay in. Interesting to see what Dart's going to do without Skattebo. Interesting to see if the defense makes some adjustments. I mean, the whole world's calling out their scheme right now, players included. So maybe Shane's going to have a little bit of hot seat pressure. We'll see.
Well, Dart did get the Tom Brady check of approval, so we will see if that continues this weekend at MetLife on Sunday.
Folks, I hate when Brady calls our games too, by the way.
Because the Super Bowl always comes up. It always comes up.
Yeah, always. I mean, he's not bad for what he is. He's actually better than I thought he would be.
I like Olsen more.
I do too. I like him. I'm from the old school anyway. I like guys that no one even likes anymore. But Brady, if I have to get a game called by Brady, Buck, Aikman, or Chris Collinsworth, forget it, man.
Yeah.
I want to turn on the fan and just listen to Bob Papa. I'll deal with the 3-second gap. But yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. This was fun. First time doing this with you, so I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely working through an interesting season. Saying hello to your cat there. What's your cat's name again?
That's Lemmy.
Lemmy.
Yeah.
And then the dog, the pug you got.
That's Gia, yep.
Gia, yes. The one that scared the crap out of me a few months ago.
And then we have a Boston Terrier named Vinny.
Right. I remember him.
He's like a smaller Gia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Full animals here.
Absolutely. Love to see it, George. Keep up the great work on that Big Blue Wrecking Room, by the way.
Thank you.
We love to see all those helmets in the background, all the picture frames you got up there, all the jerseys, signatures, all the memorabilia in the Bristol household. Wish you all the best. Enjoy the game Sunday.
I will.
Folks, remember, check us out on all of our social media handles below. Appreciate you all tuning in. Love one another. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.